Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking.
Alrighty, that's a good place to get started. Because we ain't listening to no damn ad. What's up, y'all? Whoever's here listening now or on the playback, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Sorry, it took a little long to get started, but you know, better late than never, right? Okay, I always try to do stuff earlier, but like naturally I'm just a night owl. It's hard. But yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna hop right into it because I think I had the live going for a minute. And I'm assuming that I can't be heard. Hi, Irby. Thank you for being here. You're always so supportive. I really appreciate that. Y'all go check out Irby's channel. Tune into his lives. He's a lot more consistent with the lives than me. So go check out his channel. Support him. He's really cool. I just came back from a little trippy trip or whatever. So I got to catch up on a lot of like watching stuff and sharing a lot of content that I watched here and there. So, you know, try to definitely support Irby and everybody else, y'all. So, but yeah, let me get started because I always got to work in the morning. So yeah, like let me not be on here chit chatting all night. Okay. And I can be heard. Let me check on my phone really quickly just to make sure. You know, I'm sure y'all gonna tell me if it's good or not. Let me check. Because it be telling me my connection is giving two different things. Like, which one is it? Can't be playing with me like that. And I can't be heard. Oh yeah, okay, it looks good. Okay. Okay. Let me pull up my notes. Alrighty, so this was a requested topic from a supporter. So shout out to you. You know who you are. Sorry, you know, it got postponed a little bit because of my trip, but I told you I will get to it. You know, one thing about me, it might not happen exactly when I say it's gonna happen, but I will try to get to it. You know what I mean? I definitely pay attention to y'all. So if you ever have anything you want me to talk about, just drop a comment, you can email me. You know, I will get back to it eventually. You know, always will get to eventually. So yeah, thank you for the support and for dropping the suggestion, because this is actually something I did want to talk about for a while. I just couldn't really figure out how to incorporate it into like my content, even though like I do talk about like, you know, different aspects of being a part of the diaspora, multi-ethnicity or whatever, you know, the experience of being from a multi-ethnic background or whatever. But I did want to address the diaspora war stuff when it was heavy online. excuse me, at a few different times, like during the election time when that was hot and heavy, also during the Tyler situation, even though I had made a few videos about that already. So I didn't want to, I didn't like have much to say about that, kind of set my piece. But yeah, I did want to still address this topic, so I'm glad that you requested it. And there was a few other things about the origins of this diaspora stuff online and kind of the, you could call it so-called conspiracy aspect of it. I think it's just, uncovered truth or whatever, you know what I mean? I definitely be buying into the stuff. I definitely be having my tinfoil hat tingling. Child, shout out to Lovely T. You know what I mean? I definitely think it'd be funny shit going on. So, you know what I mean? I feel like this stuff is way deeper, and it's not just me like just concocting stuff in my head. Like, there's videos on YouTube that I'm gonna show. I did my little YouTubeing research or whatever, and kind of got the information that I kind of already suspected. And this does kind of connect to, the colorism narratives that I be talking about online, because y'all know my position on that. I feel like that's some, funny shit behind that too. I definitely feel like there's more to that situation as well. And there's some like, I don't know what the reason would be, and I'm kind of going to get into that, but I feel like the two are connected because all of this kind of spring up at the same time. And again, that's not to say that these are not pre-existing issues that are always were going on, which is why these conversations were able to take root. But you just have to ask yourself, why all of a sudden now is this such a big deal, especially when the whole entire country is seceding into fascism and they don't want nobody brown or black or nothing anyways up in here. It's like, I don't know where people are thinking how this is gonna, turn out for other people. If they literally turning on their own, taking each other out. So I don't know where people thought that was gonna leave, people of color or whatever. Either you're family came over here is from here originally. I don't know how anybody thought any of this was going to end well for anybody, because they literally taken their own out already. They haven't even started with the people of color. Like, well, yes, they have. They've been started, with immigrant people and Latin people. Of course, that's been going on. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But I'm just saying, like, you have to ask yourself, why now all of a sudden is all this diaspora stuff going on? Because it's extremely unproductive. And of course, that's easy for me to say from my position, considering I'm a multi-ethnic person, which I'm going to get into, but it's just weird to me. So yeah, I've been feeling like this for a long time, long before even the first election in 2021. Set 2017, 2018, I've been thinking it was funny shit going on. Anyway, so let me kind of like get into my notes and everything. So why my personal biases in the situation, I'm gonna get those out the way, and my personal reasonings. I'm sure it's obvious from my content, as I've stated. My parents are from, different ethnic backgrounds. My mom is Black American and my dad is Cuban and Bahamian. So I have like the Caribbean thing going on, and then I also have the Black American situation going on. So I can kind of speak from both sides, like I said, and I grew up in New York City. So I was around pretty much basically everybody within the African diaspora, not only between my family and my parents' friends and stuff, but also just going to school and things. So I feel like I'm definitely very qualified to speak from both perspectives. And I can honestly see both sides. I understand each side's gripe. Do I feel like it's always coming from the place that it says that group is coming from? Not all the time, but I can see both sides. You know what I mean? So I feel like I did definitely want to talk about this, and it's something I'm passionate about. And that's, of course, there's a reason for me to have for it to be important to me, but I do think that it's a necessary thing for everybody to think about, especially when it comes to social media politics and everything like that. It's just weird to me. It's like, I honestly, it's no skin off my back whether other groups of Black people get along or not, but you do have to wonder why, when this is going on right now, is this like basically why y'all wasting time fighting with other Black people when all of this is going on? Like, I don't even think it's a distraction, because honestly, Black people weren't really making no noise after the 2020 election anyway. So I don't even think it's a distraction. But I do think that there are certain groups that would benefit politically from having people on their side. You know what I mean? In certain scenarios. So to me, it seems very simple and how this could be beneficial to certain parties to, perpetuate this division amongst Black people, even if they're not Black themselves. As well with the colorism ink stuff, I'd be trying to think about like, well, what would be the motive for it? And I just don't really see a motive for any outside group. I feel like that's very much of an internal issue. Honestly, I don't see what anybody else will really benefit from that. But I'm kind of jumping the gun. But yeah, so anyway, I consider myself like quote unquote like a diaspora baby. Like I grew up, I'm a product of people from the diaspora getting together and growing up around a lot of people. So that was a positive thing for me growing up. And I got a lot of positive influences from that. So even though of course you're the product of the society you live in, of course I internalized the anti-blackness in the society, but I also was able to look at things in a different way, in the sense that my parents did go out of their way to try to this was like the late 90s, early 2000s. So at that time there was a lot of dashikis and African symbolism. There was all the a lot of cartoons talking about Kwanzaa and things and like that. So I was definitely very aware of the connections in the diaspora and how there are Black people in other countries, and the Afro heritage and Latin American things. I have family members that, do that, Santeria and all that type of stuff. So I was very aware of like the African connection. So I never had a negative perception of it, but I did, of course you live in the society, you want to fit in with everybody else. The whole society is telling you to think some type of way, maybe towards African ancestry. So that's what's going to be more beneficial. I think a lot of us in the early 2000s and 90s got really positive representation in the media. That was a really good time to be a Black kid. There was a lot of cartoons, there was a lot of TV shows. Like, I don't understand why y'all try to act like, oh, it was so bad being a Black kid in the 90s. Like, what? That was one of the best times for Black entertainment. The late 80s, early 90s. What are you talking about? That was literally some of the best times for representation. I don't know what y'all was watching. Y'all must have been sitting around watching Disney Channel or something. I don't know. But there was definitely mad cartoons. Yeah, that had a lot of Black representation of different shades and things. Like, yeah, so I don't understand where this narrative is coming from. From what I remember, it was more in the late to mid 2000s to the 2010s when you started to see things change. So yeah, that's just what I remember. But anyway, that's a topic for a different day. But yeah, so why did I even start talking about the media? Oh yeah, it was just a lot of positive media at that time, and there was a lot of emphasis on connecting back with Africa, saying there are different times in history where that was going on. Same thing like the late 60s, early 70s and stuff like that. I feel like the late 90s, well no, the 90s in general was a real resurgence of that too. I don't know what happened in the 2010s. I believe it was hip hop. We're gonna get into that, but yeah, I believe that hip hop had a lot to do with it, and where the attitude changed drastically around the 2000s. And in the media, the entertainment industry changed a lot, so I feel like that played a huge role and stuff. But there was always an underlying sense of anti-African sentiments, though. I still remember hearing people call people African booty scratchers, things like that. I don't want to have to go there, but it has to be honest with you, I still remember hearing stuff like that. Of course, the texturism was horrible, so it was weird. It was like this positive message about Blackness, but then at the same time nobody was really addressing the underlying issues. And I feel like that's kind of why things have bubbled up to now, to where there's like this, unfortunately, there's certain a small but loud minority of people that are having some type of racial psychosis, where they're basically in denial about who they are, and they're trying to distance themselves from African ancestry, thinking it's going to help them in a fascist system. Like, people don't got two eyes and can't see what you are. Like, it's just like, I don't know what's going on here, but God help our people. But anywho, so yeah, I think that it's important to make these connections in the diaspora, not only economically, that could be beneficial, and politically, but just like in the culture as well. I don't see what a negative is about people knowing about other cultures and other places. I can't see what a negative about that would be. And I think it does build self-esteem for both groups, if you're here in America and also in other places too. Because being in America, you might feel a little isolated. America tells you a certain message about Blackness, but in other countries, if oh, this is the history, oh, this is what's going on in ancient Africa, you know what I mean? Most kids in America never learned that stuff. So I think it would be more beneficial. I remember this class I was taking, it was like just like an extracurricular activity. This anthropologist, he was saying how he went everywhere in the diaspora. He went to like Africa, mad different places, like basically every country and everything, and in the Caribbean. He said that the people that he met, that he felt like had the the worst perception of blackness, he feel like it was in Latin America because we don't get educated about history and stuff. And there's a lot of, you only learn about like slavery and just like colonization is like, it's a very negative, it makes it look sound very negative. And I was like, that makes sense to me. Like I wasn't even like, I'm like, that tracks. Like I'm like, I would extend that to the Americas in general because of what you're taught about blackness. As where when Africans come over here, they have their own perception of their ethnicity. You know what I mean? So it's a completely different way of viewing the world. So I feel like that's kind of where things are getting mixed up also. Anyway, I'm jumping the gun again. But with that being said, it's also important to see these connections because not only is there shared like positive similarities in the cultures, but also like some of the shared dysfunction as well. And I think to understand why certain things happen in African culture, you can understand why certain things happen here in the United States. You know, I completely see it. Like, you know, my friends and their like mothers, like I have a lot of friends, you know, they have that are African, they have a lot of issues with their mother, and it's the same thing across the diaspora. I'm not saying it's not in other cultures, but I'm just saying, like, you would understand stuff a lot differently. Even the way we eat, like, you know, in the Caribbean and Latin America, we eat a lot of plantain that comes from Africa. A lot of people don't know a lot of these dishes, yellow rice, things like that, all that comes from West Africa. But if you don't know that, you thinking, oh, all of this just came from Spain, you know what I mean? Of course, you're going to have a low racial self-esteem. So, you know, I have to look at these people funny, like, you know, Tariq, Jerry Curl Nasheed, who's over here 1 minute you pushing out bullshit like hidden colors, that's a bunch of lies and deception. Like I never, even when that came out, I never even believed that. Like some of my family members had it, we watched, I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm like, I don't give a crap about no Moors that y'all say that y'all claim did XYZ. And I do believe the Moors exist, but the way they push it and the way that they tell the story, I don't believe it was like that. I believe the Moors was a mixture of probably North Africans and some West Africans that, you know, who people would say today are dark skinned, things like that. I don't believe it was just a whole bunch. I don't believe that at all. The way they tell the story, like, so the minute they was focusing so much on Europe, I was like, yeah, this is BS. I never believed that. So when all of this came out now that he's low-key a fraud, not low-key, high-key a fraud, and that he's anti-black woman and that he just be putting a bunch of lies, I'm like, yeah, even at what, I must have been like 15 or 16 when that came out. Yeah, even at 15 and 16, I knew you was BSing. Like, so I just think it's so funny that 1 minute you over here pushing out a Hidden Colors movie that's all focused on the diaspora, but you couldn't even tell the truth about stuff. And then now you over here pushing some, you know, xenophobic, you know, divisive stuff. And it's like, if you want to talk about Black American pride and, you know, maybe make Black Americans more, have more pride and nationalism, I mean, okay, I don't think that that's really, I don't really care about that. I don't think really that's the issue. I feel like people were dragging it when they were mad at Beyonce doing it. I don't see what's a problem. And I think that, you know, I've noticed a lot of Black women using like, you know, American flag iconography and, you know, the blonde hair. You know, there's a girl going viral on YouTube with the gold teeth. Y'all probably seen it. Like, I don't think it's a problem with that. Like, I think we should be proud to be Black American. And, you know, especially being here in New York, there's not as high a population of Black Americans. So I always make a point to tell people, like, no, my mom is Black American. Like, it's my dad that's people's are immigrants. You know what I mean? Like, no, my mom's family's from the South. Like, you know what I mean? I definitely be telling people that. So I'm definitely not against that. But, you know, I do kind of understand what people are saying, though, with the whole American flag iconography and stuff. Like, especially now with how, you know, the Cheeto cult are trying to colonize that. But it's like, who cares what they're doing? Like, if you want to use if you're American and you want to use the American flag, like, don't let nobody not, you know what I mean, not scare you from using it just because, you know, some racist people, like, the flag been racist. Like, this ain't new. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm not against that, but the way that he's pushing it, especially knowing what I know about him and the nasty stuff that he said about Black women and everything, and, you know, and all the revisionist history that he's pushed and weirdo stuff like that buck breaking movie, he's weird, y'all. He's real weird. And I can't stand people who engage in revisionist history. Y'all will probably see on my channel that's an ongoing theme for me. I'm very anal about that type of stuff. I can't stand that. And because of divisive stuff like this that's been happening, this is why I have these problems with these people. And it just creates a whole bunch of unnecessary problems when the information is there. It's not that deep. The slave trade started in what, the late 1400s? That was not that long ago. Why y'all acting like this is a mystery? Like, if you had Native American ancestry to the degree that you would have some stake and claims and stuff. You wouldn't be all coming from the same tribe. Like, come on now, like, cut it out. Like, so it's just, the whole dynamic is annoying to me. But again, I'm jumping the gun because I'm into the indigenous stuff later on. But yeah, so diasporas are stupid. That was on my notes. I think that it's nothing wrong with Black Americans being proud, but I don't think that's what he's pushing, because if you was proud, you wouldn't be coming at Black women trying to call us B winches, you know what I mean, disrespecting people who are the product of that, and Black women, you know what I mean, like fully Black women who were taken advantage of, because you disrespecting both groups. And then he be trying to run little division games against Black women and biracial women. He's divisive. He's not smart at all. He just be saying BS. You know what I mean? So when I found out who was behind all of this, I'm like, okay, this makes a whole lot of sense. And just the fact that nobody else has, I'm not gonna say nobody else, because this guy made a whole video about it, but not many people have clocked this dude's tea and are following behind his FBA stuff, is really scary to me. So this is just a good example of why I'm so against the revisionist historians. Yeah. And yeah, it's just like I'm sorry, I'm also not convinced that that specifically Black immigrants are that much of a harm to Black people economically or socially. I just don't believe that. Like I said, I have my biases because I'm the product of it, but I just don't believe that. It's like it's like something I've mentioned in my videos multiple times. Like, why do y'all focus so much on beating light-skinned Black people over the head about light-skinned privilege, but you don't got no smoke from the Arab you get your gas from? You don't got no smoke from the light-skinned Mexican mestizo that you get your groceries from. You don't got no smoke for the East Asian, you know what I mean? But you want to come fight with light-skinned and biracial women. Like, we don't got nothing for you. Like, we in the same position. Like, what you mean? So that's my problem. It's like, okay, we can talk about colorism, but it's like, why the fixation on fighting with other people of African descent? It's weird. And it comes off, I'm gonna just be honest with you, it comes off as weak. It really does. So that's another reason why I don't like him either. So yeah, I have my own biases for why I don't like it, but I don't like that. And it's a waste of time in this political environment. And so you have to ask yourself why somebody who would be such an agent of chaos to try to do that. It's one thing if you just addressing stuff that other Black people are saying that you don't like, okay, that's fine. But why are you going out your way to try to create a whole fake ethnicity, fake term and everything, and then go against other Black people? Who got time for that when we literally descending into fascism behind a Cheeto? And they taking each other out left and right. If they already taking each other out and we already 18 months in, what do you think they're gonna be doing in 12 months from now? Like, come on now, like, seriously. So this is just such a waste of time. It's annoying to me. It's like I sometimes even be contemplating, I'm like, dang, should I even be talking about colorism in this environment? Like, dang, do we even got time to talk about this? Because it's like, dang. Will women even be able to be on TikTok and YouTube in a year? No, I'm playing, but you get what I mean. Like, I just don't see a benefit in any of this. But yes, that kind of goes into my next set of notes. So I was going to talk about how, I started to see a lot of these diaspora words really kicking up around the same time that I started to see the colorism ink stuff going on. So that's what makes me think that possibly the same entities or the same parties or whoever that might be benefiting from that are possibly benefiting from this diaspora wars too, or maybe see it as two birds with one stone type of situation. But I just can't think of any reason why or how that would really benefit like society. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I can see how the Black Americans versus immigrants thing would benefit certain people in certain groups in this society, considering what they're trying to do with immigration and everything. And I'm not here to argue about that. I know immigration is not perfect. I'm not here to talk about that. I don't, that's not what the life is about. But because that's been an issue before the Cheeto even came up here. So anyway, but yeah, so I can see how that would be a benefit. So to me, I do think that there's way more to this. So, you just have to think about it, especially like what, just happened last week with old boy getting taken out. They're saying that this is connected to some type of online groups, some of these, weird dudes on Reddit and 4chan and everything. And so I'm just saying, like, it's not far-fetched to believe that there's some bot farms or, type of groups or something somewhere that, at least helped kickstart a lot of this, or maybe might have given a tip off to some of these people on YouTube and said, oh, here, you talk about XYZ, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know. I'm just saying, like, I just have to wonder. I mean, yes, sometimes people are just grifters and they just want to make money. They just want attention from people. They just want somebody to follow behind them, which is the vibe I get from Tariq Nasheed, because he's been scamming since the late 90s. And I hate pimps too. So that's another reason why I don't like him. So if you know anything about his early days, people like that always got to like find a hustle or something like that. They're going to find creative ways to scam people and to, keep their little hustle going. I'm surprised he hasn't launched a church yet. Give him 10 years. He's going to be a pastor too. Watch. But yeah, so I can see why he would forbid for personal gains, why he would do this, but you have to wonder why other people would too. And so that's why I like this video that I found from this dude who kind of did some like kind of investigative journalism behind the origins of these movements and everything. And I had suspected this even before I watched his video. So basically this was just confirmation. But I'm basically saying, like, basically it's confirmed that a lot of this does come from political parties that had back some of these original people who started these movements. So this is not just me like thinking stuff up. I'm just basically saying I think it's also goes into bot farms, articles written. I think some of these people be on Twitter be fake. I do think that it's way deeper than just, oh, I'm gonna pay this random YouTuber and give them some good equipment so they get popping on YouTube and then my message gets out there. And I think that's way more common today than a lot of people would think. But I'm saying I think that even with the Colorism Inc. thing, I think that could possibly have bots and stuff behind it. It's just kind of strange to me. Like, even some comments I've seen from people is like, yeah, we know that people from other countries watch this content as well, and maybe they're projecting what's going on in their country in some of these comment sections. Sometimes maybe that's what's going on, but the amount of comments that I see, I don't even believe that, because most people in the diaspora consume American media. So all of a sudden in 2017, people just stop seeing certain people as black. That's weird. Stuff doesn't happen like that. So it's kind of strange. Like, of course, it's basically, it takes somebody to plant a seed about something. It takes somebody to start saying something. You could have a channel and then you see some discourse on a thread and think, dang, that's interesting. I'm a think on that. And then you start saying it on your channel and then you're repeating something that a bot said. You know what I mean? Like, that actually really happens with real information in cases that happen. So it's not far-fetched to believe that not only is this backed by, these little groups that fund people, but also other entities online, essentially. I suspect that. And I think that could be going on with the Colorism Inc. stuff too, because why is it they all have the same script? They all, talk about the same couple topics. It's kind of strange. Like, not only, yeah, we know it's a aspect of ad revenue connected to it. So it's like people are going to talk about what's viral. So that's kind of self-explanatory. But at the same time, it is strange. Like, why all of a sudden this push to, I don't know. It's just, I think it's all weird. But yeah, so the Colorism Inc. and the Diaspora War stuff, I feel like a lot of that really seemed to kick off around the same time, like 2017, 2018. Think about the time Cardi B came out. That's when I started to hear a lot of the divisive stuff about the diaspora, especially about mixed people too. They had always been kind of complaining about Afro Latinos and stuff like that, like a few years prior. But after Cardi B came out, I feel like that's when I started to hear a huge increase of it. And I also started to hear stuff that was being said online being mirrored by larger platforms. I mean, you got to think, some of your fave rappers, mine as well, were literally repeating Twitter talking points about Cardi B on iRadio or iTunes Radio, whatever. You know what I mean? So think about that. If stuff that people are saying on Twitter is making its way all the way up to iHeartRadio, and you got Charlamagne the God and people like that saying it, you know what I mean? Why is it far-fetched to believe that? But so stuff that's being said on the internet is having an impact. But anyway, even some of these celebrities are now getting into these ADOS foundational Black American conversations. So they see what's going on, because nobody cares about mainstream media anymore. Nobody cares about what they talking about on the Breakfast Club or Hot 97. Like, nobody cares what Ebro in the morning got to say. Don't nobody want to hear all that yelling from Funk Flex at 6 a.m. Like, we want to be on YouTube peaceful. Feel me? So, they're looking at what people on YouTube are saying, so they're going to repeat that stuff. So, I think it's a two-way street. Anyway, I might sound crazy. I might sound like I'm reaching. I really don't care. I've been thinking this for a while. Let me see. And oh yeah, this was the other thing I wanted to touch on. And I do think that, at least with the colorism ink stuff, I do think that that's more intrapersonal. I don't think that that has as much outside interference in it, just because honestly, I just can't see what the benefit would be. I can't see what reason certain groups would have to like kind of try to facilitate that issue. But at the same time, if you think about it, when Kamala was running the first time, and I'm talking about the first time, not after she became the vice president. That was around the same time the whole Cardi B attacks and smear campaigns were going on, and they were using some of the same xenophobic and anti-mixed propaganda against Kamala Harris. And literally, the Cheeto himself was saying some of that stuff too. So I'm just saying, like, people look on Twitter, people look online, they read comment sections. You think, these celebrities don't see what people are saying online, and then they say it on their little platforms too. So yeah, like I definitely noticed a lot of that. And yeah, and what makes me think of that is that I've noticed that white people tend to come at mixed people for political reasons, as where black people come at mixed people for like racial self-esteem reasons. So it's also not far-fetched to believe that there are other political entities that would try to put a wedge between black and mixed people politically, because there were people using that argument. I saw a lot of white and non-black people using that argument against Kamala. And so you can't just say, oh, it's just only black people saying that. A lot of people were weaponizing her identity against her. Not so much Cardi B. I don't think people cared that much. But when it's politically convenient, non-black people will use that. Generally, they may not really care, honestly, which is why I don't think that the colorism ink stuff as much is like an outside force thing. But you could see how it might have started like that politically. I wouldn't be surprised if there are bots that were on social media saying, yeah, Kamala Harris is actually a white woman with a tan. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not hard for me to believe. So basically, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that is someone, behind the computer somewhere just typing stuff and just trying to be facetious. I think that, they have reasons for why this is happening. And if you think about it, what's going on, it kind of makes sense. It's like, okay, I can kind of see this. But what reason would somebody just randomly in their house just sit around, have a reason to be saying and doing this? Like, you know what I mean? They clearly are being motivated by some type of money. It's not all about attention, because Tariq Nasheed been had clout. So you can't even say it's about that. I don't think he got any more popular, because even in Hidden Colors 20 years ago, he still had a lot of celebrities in that movie. So I don't think it's about attention or clout for him. I think that is really probably about money, and maybe he got, some cuts with somebody politically somewhere too. I wouldn't be surprised either, because he know people in high places too. So anyway, I think I went over all of my notes. Yeah. And then, okay, yeah, it's been 30 minutes. So let me play the video that I'm talking about now, because I need some water too. Oh wait, let me look at your comments too. Ah! Ah, it's so embarrassing. Sorry, my light fell. That always happens. It's not secure. it's from Amazon, the devil, so that's why it doesn't work. Okay. Hi, Yahamina. Thanks so much for coming. You and Irby are so supportive. I really appreciate y'all. So true, a lot of media representation in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Yeah, it was. There were a lot of channels. And then Irby says 90s were golden era for black television because there were more channels. There were more channels. Yeah, there were more. They definitely were more channels. And people were actually watching cable and stuff like that now. Like, nobody cares about none of that stuff. But I think, wasn't there like less channels at that time? At a certain time, it got to be more channels. But I feel like before it was like maybe 6 or 7. But yeah, once people started to get cable, it was like more channels. When it comes to diaspora wars, each groups have bias, good or bad, and they focus behind to divide and exploit people. And yes, Tariq Nasheed is one of them. Yeah. Yeah, Tariq Nasheed is, yeah, I don't trust him at all. I haven't trusted him since 2014. Remember, I want to know their thoughts on Curly, and into politics. I'm dead. I really don't have thoughts on Curly. Not Charlie. Why do I keep want to call him Charlie Sheen? Charlie Kirk. I didn't think about him then. I didn't think about him now. But I think it's telling that they're taking out their own. That's my thoughts. I'm gonna leave it at that. That says a lot to me. They couldn't even hold it together for a year. But I have been keeping up with that though, and I am gonna watch your stream. Don't worry. Some of these celebrities want to do podcasts, YouTube channels now. Yeah, they are. They've been colonized YouTube since like I would say around that same time, around 2020, they started to come up in here. I don't watch YouTubers. I don't watch celebrities on YouTube because I kind of find them boring. Like I'm not a celebrity hater. Obviously, I keep up with celebrities, so I'm not one of those people. But I don't want to watch them on YouTube. I come to YouTube to watch regular people. Like that's just me. If I want to watch, celebrities, I turn on TV. That's just me though. And then they run their YouTube and stuff like that like it's still TV. It's like we watch YouTube for a reason. I think that that's what they don't understand. And also, certain people are good for certain things. Like I think Queen Latifah is good for TV. 𝙀𝙀𝙢, he good for TV. Do we want to watch Queen Latifah and 𝙀𝙀𝙢 on YouTube? Me personally, no. But I'll watch her show. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't mean I don't like her. It's just like I don't want to watch her on YouTube type of thing. But those type of celebrities, I don't find that they try to get on YouTube. It's usually a certain type of celebrity I find that is trying to like make their way over to YouTube. I actually think celebrities would do better on TikTok because people like a lot of aesthetic content and it's shorter. So I actually like watching celebrities there because it's like, I don't know, you like watching rich people do stuff. People like watching people in like big apartments doing things and stuff like that. Like TikTok, you go there for a different vibe, even Instagram. But YouTube is like it's more authentic, more down to earth. Hold on, let me put some quick music. Somebody want to come downstairs yelling like, "Are you serious?" All right, let me just grab my phone so to make sure we can hear it. Oh, and this video is from Cam James. It's called FUBU Scammers number 6. So check out his channel. I actually been watching a lot of his content. It's cool. I'm gonna have it linked in the description box below. Nah, this was a good breakdown. It's like an hour long, so it gets into a lot. And he talks about a few other people too, like Dr. Umar and stuff like that. So he got some good videos. So go check out his channel.
I dislike everything covered in the rest of this video. I owe y'all some proof for a couple of things I said earlier. Here's the official FBA website. I told y'all he built this, and at the bottom it says Foundational Black Americans. Let's throw that joint in the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office site, and boom. That's your boy, right? Just in case you needed more proof, the earliest recorded mention of the site's URL happened on October 7th of 2020, when he was trying to sell y'all FBA mini flags. The earliest mention of the term is hard to pinpoint, but he was using it on another one of his sites in 2019. Here's proof of him creating the term in the first place, claiming he adapted it from Dr. Claude Anderson's Native Black Americans term. The FBA movement started as Tangibles 2020 in the lead up to the 2020 election.
Man, we don't need to be on no ADOS, man. We need to be Pan-Africans. That's what Pan-Africanism is. Us fighting for everybody else to come over here and get some of the resources that we've helped accumulate for them. And then they turn around and say, okay, thank you, Wakata. And I'm about to go work with these white people.
Back then, Tariq was in lockstep with the ADOS movement, led by Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. ADOS has their own problems. Rapper Talib Kweli penned a Medium article in 2019 called Why ADOS is Trash that included 2 segments that help prove this point. The first is from when ADOS followers misidentified his heritage after he criticized their co-founder Yvette Carnell, saying he's Haitian and telling him to go back. Talib Kweli is from Brooklyn and his parents aren't immigrants. Stay tuned for them doing that to me 2 weeks ago. The second is about how ADOS, and now FBA, love targeting liberals and progressives like Ta-Nehisi Coates, Kamala, Cory Booker, Bernie Sanders, and every other critic of Trump, because Dems have taken the black vote for granted. That's absolutely true. But Kweli says that when you target Dems like that, you're letting the GOP slide. I agree 100%. Yvette got this rolling when she attacked Talib out of nowhere in 2019. His tweet was pro-reparations and anti-Trump, saying he prefers a plan for reparations over withholding our votes and letting Trump win again. She slammed him for being a loud and wrong celebrity. How? He agrees with you. Oh, wait.
Right. Now, you know that video is deleted.
That, I think, is even more beloved than Tariq Nasheed. I remember people actually being more mad at me that I had a vet in the thumbnail.
I'm sorry. This picture is a gag. Like, come on now. You gonna look at that mustache and tell me that we're dealing with a heterosexual man? So we gonna look at that lip puncture. We gonna look at that lip pucker and that little teensy weensy French mustache. I'm sorry. Let me stop, because that's not cool. That's not cool. I've been trying to be better. I've been trying to be better. Because you two keep giving me a slap on the hand. So let me stop. Let me stop. I didn't even mean to pause it here, but this picture is a gag. And I tried to like Yvette Cornell, you know, a fellow light-skinned black woman. You know, I think her family's from the South too. You know, I tried to like Yvette Cornell, but you know, we don't see eye to eye on things, obviously, and that's fine. You know, even from a Black American side, like not even speaking from an immigrant side, it would still be things that I'd be like, I don't really feel the same way about that. But you know, I respect that. But I don't like how they be coming at her with a bunch of homophobic attacks. Like, you know, what she chooses to do in the comfort of her own home has nothing to do with her politically. You know what I mean? So I always think that that's interesting too, because that just kind of shows you it's like no matter what side of the aisle you on, people are gonna find we're gonna find personal attacks against you. I even think they even came at her for being light skinned before, tried to say, you know, she wasn't black enough, essentially. You know what I mean? So it's like it's always gonna be a problem. So that's why it's like I don't come at other black people for they political stuff. We can disagree, but it's like, you know, I tried to like her. I watched her a little bit. I just, you know, I'm not gonna say that I don't care about reparations, but it's like, come on, like, I mean, I feel like that's a pipe dream. Feel me? Like, I gotta do what I gotta get through the day. I'm from New York. I gotta get at least $2.50 for the train, okay? I gotta think about stuff I can't control. Okay, so but yeah, that's funny. But I was gonna say that dude that's talking, he's actually Bahamian. So it's funny, even like within the other diasporas, like the Caribbean diaspora, people from different countries, the Latino diaspora, there's even issues there. Certain Caribbeans don't like other Caribbeans. Oh, the Puerto Ricans and the Dominicans beefing, the Jamaicans and the Bahamians be beefing. You know what I mean? People be saying Bahamians got a superiority complex because, you know, we don't, you could hear how he talk. We don't got the thickest accents. The country, we got a little bit more money and things. You know what I mean? Like, so it'd be even issues amongst the diaspora. So I always find that funny too. Like if you come to New York, like you hear that more. You hear Latin people bickering back and forth more. I've heard way more prejudice and racism from other Latin people towards other Latin people than I ever heard towards African Americans. You know what I mean? Most people in the diaspora actually idolize African Americans. They see African American culture as very cool. They want to be like African Americans. The It's the older generations, Gen X, boomers, things like that, that, you know, had more of an anti-black mentality, that didn't have as much of a positive mentality towards blackness when they came here. But from what I found when I was growing up, people more so idolize Black American culture. And I think that that's true in the country as well. Like if you go back there, I think that is when people immigrate here and they're more in a survival mode. That's when they start acting different. They maybe try to take on a superiority complex, basically to cope with the situation in this country. That's what I kind of perceive it as. But I didn't grow up around prejudice, weirdo, you know, people who had an issue with Black Americans. So I didn't see that, but this is how I interpret it from people that I did hear that said their families was like that. But I just found that funny that in this video he was interviewing a Bahamian guy, because I know a lot of Caribbeans, I've heard a lot of Caribbeans talk shit about Bahamians and try to say that we be thinking that we better. And like, I know there's issues there. Bahamians thinking they better than other groups, or Jamaicans, like I said, and Bahamians. So it's funny. So even there is like, even a lot of immigrants are not unified. It might seem like that from the outside world, but it's like, no, if you call a Puerto Rican person a Mexican or try to associate them with each other, they're going to be mad offended and see themselves as completely different. They might understand that we all under the same, like, quote unquote, ethnic group in this country, but we don't see each other all the same. You know what I mean? Like, even shoot, with Cuban people, Cubans that came over here at a certain time, they look down at Cubans who came over here at another time. You know what I mean? So it's weird shit. People who have their papers, they look at people who don't have their papers. I mean, that's for obvious reason, but you know what I mean? It's like you could have people, they've been here, they was here 15 years, no papers, didn't speak English, they just got their papers hot off the press in, you know, 2024, and they looking down at other people. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of things that people in the African diaspora and people of color in general just do to cope and try to separate themselves from other people of color, and, you know, to protect their own ego and self-esteem. So I'm not making excuses, but, you know, shit don't be personal. You know what I mean? Even with Yvette Cornell, like, who knows what she's been through, you know, as a light-skinned Black American woman that is a lesbian, you know, and isn't as feminine presenting. You know, who knows what she's been through to where she feel like that's the best path for her. So, you know, I'm not gonna pass judgment on her. Same thing with Candace Owens. I used to like Candace Owens a lot. I used to listen to her. Y'all probably would be like, oh, how did you look like Candace Owens? It's like, I'm a multifaceted flower. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to agree with everything you say to like you or to support you. You know what I mean? I had to stop supporting her when she was over here trying to keep for Andrew Tate. Like, that's what we were not finna do, is sit up here and protect actual offenders. So that's where I had to draw the line with Candace. But yeah, like, you never know what people have done in their life to where they're reacting the way that they do. And with a lot of immigrant people, honestly, it don't even be personal. They just be trying to really survive. Like, a lot of these people, they probably be getting worse and going through worse in their own household, to where they just come outside and they just got an attitude with everybody. So don't even take it personal, you know. But yeah, I just thought that it was funny that dude was Bahamian, because you don't hear a lot of Bahamians. But yeah. I just so happened to see the troll because I came in the wrong I clicked on the wrong window. I mean, if they start getting disrespectful, start getting crazy with people, you can, but I don't really care. I mean, they saying this topic is old and tired. I mean, okay, that's fine. Y'all can move around. I don't know who y'all are, and I don't know who they talking about. You know what I mean? Like this is what we talking about. Like they probably came in at one moment, heard me talk about one specific thing, don't even know that my family's Black American too. So it's like I don't know who they talking about y'all is. So yeah, as long as they not bothering nobody, it's like I don't care. And then what did you? But thank you for asking, Gigi. I appreciate that. GGLO. And then Irby said, I was surprised at that beef. They live basically on top of each other in my neighborhood. Yeah, same thing in New York City. Everybody lives on top of each other. I mean, they are like Puerto Rican and Dominican areas, but you know, people like I'm there. You said my block finger is itching. I mean, yeah, if they get crazy, you know, let them rip. But you know, phobies is whatever. But yeah, I don't really understand. No, I'm not gonna say I don't understand it either, because I see why they saying what they saying, but it don't be that serious. It's basically what I'm saying like this. Like, why are you wasting time beefing with people that a lot of people who are from the outside, they wouldn't even be able to tell you apart? Like, I'm not saying that's good, but it is what it is. Like, who's really sitting around trying to think who the Black American versus the Jamaican is? Who's sitting around really thinking that? Like, you know, not saying that it matters what other people think. I'm just saying, like, it's a stupid conversation. So a lot of it plays into nationalism too. Caribbeans and people from Latin America are extremely nationalistic. I think that's kind of toxic. It's like, I mean, okay, like, but a lot of that stems from nationalism. Honestly, it's like if it was so great over there, we would be there. Like that's kind of my logic, and people don't even like that. That's my mentality. But I'm like, seriously, like we can be proud of our ethnicities, but let's be real. If it's so deep that you're gonna be sitting up here and beefing with other people, then why are you not there? Like I feel the same way in my situation. That's why I don't do the nationalism thing. And I'm a multi-ethnic person. So what am I gonna sit up here being nationalist towards the next person for? Like who got time for that? Like so yeah, but I feel like that's a real mixed person thing too. Like you don't feel as like I don't know, you don't feel as like not as you don't feel allegiance, but you feel more allegiance to yourself in a way. That sounds like kind of bad, but it is what it is. Like that's kind of always how I felt. Like I felt more allegiance to myself. Like even with that person saying, "Oh, can y'all get out of here?" Like they probably assuming that I'm not Black American just because I'm having a different perspective. You know, like that's probably what it is. So it's like stuff like that. It's like you can't expect me to think a certain way because we in the same ethnicity. Like I don't got time for that. I might agree with you or see where you're coming from, but you know, I don't really care that much. But yeah. Yeah, so that person, let me think. Oh yeah, I was gonna start it back. And I wasn't saying that to y'all in the chat. I was just speaking generally, just to make it clear.
Than Tariq Nasheed. But the thing is, the data has already shown, there's already research has shown that she is compromised. She does specifically back the
reparations and anti-Trump, saying he prefers a plan for reparations over withholding our votes and letting Trump win again. She slammed him for being a loud and wrong celebrity. How? He agrees with you. Oh, wait.
Right. Now, you know that video is deleted.
Vivek, I think, is even more beloved than Tariq Nasheed. I remember people actually being more mad at me that I had a vet in the thumbnail than Tariq Nasheed. But the thing is, the data has already shown, there's already research has shown that she is compromised. She does specifically back the MAGA set, not even like conservative, not even conservative with a small c that we know we people that are darker than blue do have. I'm from the Caribbean. I ain't gonna gaslight you into thinking that like I did not grow up in a conservative Caribbean household. Right. I'm not gonna act like I didn't. But no, Yvette and Tariq and them were specifically trying to align themselves with the MAGA sect brand. And a lot of it also, if you do like the research and you follow the money, Nazi-backed MAGA sapien type branding. So like, who is this in service of?
Very serious accusation, Potter. No evidence.
I appreciate that, Foreign. I was going to have to talk about this anyway. So Yvette served on the board for a group called Progressives for Immigration Reform, which was a fake progressive front organization linked to essentially a Nazi, a white nativist, white supremacist, and eugenics supporter named John Tanton. His goal was to limit Black and brown immigration. This organization she served on built websites that accused immigrants of being responsible for things like traffic, overconsumption, and other environmental problems. They've also increased friction between ADOS/FBA and Black immigrants, as we're going to show a lot more of in the video. The ultimate goal here is to delay a Black or brown majority population in the country for more years. Also, big shout out to Ole for throwing me the alley-oop with this research. We all love you. Thank you so much. Suffice to say, FBA copied most of ADOS' playbook, but made it worse somehow. I got to show y'all the site for Tangibles 2020 real quick because it supports my prior argument.
All right. So yeah, anyway, that's basically what I had suspected anyway. I was like, okay, I didn't really see what the benefit could have been. Also, I feel like in other states outside of New York City, it wasn't as high of a population of those immigrants from those places to where I was like, well, why would people like, but my mom's family now lives in the Midwest. And I was like, well, why would they be having an issue with like a Jamaican immigrant, but not a Chinese immigrant? You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm not trying to like send attacks to other immigrant groups. I was just really trying to think like, well, what could really be the benefit of like fighting? Like, so that makes a lot more sense now. So, you know, for the people that are backing, you know, whatever money group that was that he said Yvette Cornell was connected to, you can see how that's killing two birds with one stone in the benefit of the sense that you getting rid of your halting immigration from these Black and brown countries. And then at the same time, this is what I'm thinking, if you're creating discourse and issues between those groups, they're probably not going to be reproducing with each other as fast. Because think about that, you know what I mean? Because they say that the African American population has been stagnant for a long time. So if you're not bringing Black people from other countries here, well, then that population, the people who are already here, are also not going to make more kids with people from other countries. And then, you know, although I don't think that the colorism ink benefit is as much of a benefit, but you have to think that also plays a role into it too. If they can maybe get a political issue going between Black people and mixed people, which I feel like is way more complicated, because as mixed people, we're not as how do I say this? We don't have as much of one thought process towards things, so it's harder to have a collective mentality around stuff, as where with like the, you know, the dominant African American culture, it's easier to find a common narrative or common issue that people can feel like and say, you know, this issue has been going on with maybe work and jobs and things like that. You know, it's easy to say, yeah, well, you see the Jamaican people, they have a business. Whole time the Jamaican food place, you know, who knows how much they paying in rent, and it's probably 8 extra people working there illegally that ain't even supposed to be up in there. And you know what I mean? It's probably a whole bunch of other shenanigans that they probably live in apartment that looks crazy. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's easy to bring optic discourse between different Black groups, and then that would have more of a long-term fallout. That's basically what I'm thinking. And then, you know, if you have an issue between Black and mixed people, like I said, that's kind of self-explanatory. So then that's another, you know, potential, you know, maybe group that you could try to sway and say, oh, you know, hey, you know, you have an issue with these mixed people too, you have an issue with Kamala too, well, if you know, work with us, you won't have to deal with these mixed people anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I can see how that could happen. You know, that doesn't seem crazy to me. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. But again, I don't think it's as much benefit to greater society with the whole colorism ink, you know, monoracial versus mixed stuff, but I can see the benefit with the whole immigration thing. I mean, that's pretty obvious. And so, as I always state, like, propaganda works on exploiting a pre-existing issue. So I'm not saying that we never had any problems between Black people and immigrants, or no economic issues before. There was never any issues with immigration, stuff like that, until recently. But we're basically saying that there clearly is a reason why this is now being more people are being more vocal about this, especially considering what's, you know, happening, you know, and even before this. So you have to think a lot of these groups are also behind like Project 2022 and a lot of the, you know, stuff that we already knew was going to be implemented. So you have to think, how long were different entities working together? That's what I think. And yeah, like, I mean, historically, there certain groups have always used certain other Black people politically to do their bidding, and maybe use the narrative to say, oh, well, maybe if you do go along with this will be beneficial to you in the long term. And when have they ever kept that promise? So, I mean, it's not far-fetched to believe that Tariq Nasheed is in on that too, even though I do think he, is a grifter and kind of like basically stole from the ADOS movement and made it more toxic. And even if you look at the people who gravitate towards ADOS versus the FBA movement, it's usually the same type of dudes that probably would have been Hebrew Israelites. Those are the same dudes that seem to be attached to the like FBA type of stuff. And then ADOS, I feel like it's more people who are business owners, more people who are just conservative. You know what I mean? So I can see how somebody like Tariq Nasheed would also not only get his personal pockets being filled by, biting off their movement, and also probably who knows who he's backed by also, at the same time. I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, so I think I went through all of my notes about that. Let me think. And yeah, and another thing I kind of wanted to address is kind of like this idea that I've seen more so on TikTok and stuff, with people basically saying that, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying with the whole like nationalism and Beyonce being more abrasive of like nationalism and things. I don't really I kind of feel like, how do I want to say this? Like, I don't know why certain people are feeling like Black Americans are not embraced as part of American culture. I feel like what we're doing is misinterpreting the mistreatment as not being embraced, and saying, well, we need to be more proud to be American, when I don't think that the issue is necessarily that we weren't proud to be American. I think that we were focused on the mistreatment. So it's like, well, we're not going to be nationalistic in a country where there's this history, and like I said, a lot of promises haven't been made. As where if you're in a country that's ran by all Black people and it's a freed colony, your mentality towards nationalism is a little different. So I'm not, like I just said, I'm not into nationalism like that. Like, you don't see me dropping flags all over my page and shit like that. And a lot of Caribbean people are like that. So I understand where also the overt nationalism from like mostly Caribbeans, because even Africans ain't really nationalistic like that. Africans more so associate with their ethnicity. It's really Latinos and Caribbeans that do the nationalist stuff. But you have to think, a lot of us are coming from places that were free colonies, so we're not looking at it in the same way in North America, where it's kind of, the way people talk about it, where it's like, this is still a place of, well, I don't even want to say that, because those were places of captivity too. But I think that the difference is just who's considered the quote unquote dominant power structure group in the United States, and how we have a more overt racial system. As where if you're in Jamaica, it's more of a class thing. So you're not looking at it as, oh, us Black people are at the bottom economically, and we went through XYZ, and then I'm visibly seeing this group of visibly non-Black people being treated and having different outcomes than me. It's more of an economic thing. So you come from a whole all Black country and then come here, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm proud of my all Black country, because now I'm in this country, that's racializing me, and trying to other me and things like that. So I think that that's kind of what it is. So I see both groups, I see both perspectives about it. And I feel like that's kind of the difference. I don't think that it's that Black Americans are not proud of our ethnicity or proud to be American, but it's that we recognize the situation here in this country. It's like, what are you being, like with the flag, like how there's a debate now. It's like, oh, is embracing the flag automatically embracing like, MAGA or, white nationalism? And I disagree. I don't think that it is. But I think that because for so long we've kind of only focused on that and only seen it in that way, we can't kind of disassociate the two. So I feel like it's like kind of a middle ground. That might sound weird, but it's like, I think that you can acknowledge the history of America, but you don't have to hate the flag or be ashamed to wear American flag stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to automatically associate it with that, and you don't have to kind of let those people hold that power in that way. It's like, it kind of as simple to me is like, don't not be proud to be American because racist people you think told you they don't want you to be. It's like, don't racist people want to be associated with the flag of the South. Like, I don't even know what it's called. Like, didn't y'all say that they wanted to be associated with the Confederate flag? So why do you care, or why are you even letting them gaslight you into wearing American flag stuff? You know what I mean? And this was never really an issue before. I used to always see Black people wearing American flag stuff on 4th of July and things like that. We all celebrate 4th of July. We all eat, barbecue, and what do people do in the backyard? Yeah, like get the hot dogs and the stuff. I'm from New York, so I only get barbecue here and there. I only do cookouts and grilling. That's what I was thinking of. I only do it here and there, so sorry. But yeah, like we all do that. So it's like, where is this coming from that, oh, we're like, we haven't been a part of American culture, like we're not embraced, and we need to embrace our Americanness? Like, I don't really see it in that way. I feel like we just maybe need to start looking at nationalism differently. But yeah, so I think that it's really interesting. I think that that's what Beyonce is trying to do, and I think that how Beyonce is doing it, like the girl with the grills, who has the music video that's going viral, and she has like the blonde, like yaki hair. Like, I really like that iconography. I like that she used a lot of Southern Black culture and everything. Like, I'm in support of that. Like, I think that Black Americans should be proud of the flag and everything like that. So, I'm not against that, but it's just like, why do you feel attacked by immigrants though? That's kind of what I don't understand. It's like, honestly, like, I mean, when most people think of a Black person, they're thinking of Black American culture. They're not thinking about Jamaicans. They're not thinking about Ghanaians. They damn sure not thinking about nobody from Latin America. So that's another thing too. Like, I don't really understand why some of these people would even feel kind of like threatened by like Nigerians having a Nigerian flag. Like, who cares? Like, that's even makes me why I think, like, who are these people? Like, I don't even think most of Black Americans nationalistic ego is that fragile to where most people would even care that much that people in the diaspora are proud. You know what I mean? And I feel like the people that are starting to feel like that, y'all are letting people like 𝙁and other grifters who are insecure for their own reasons or have their own motives of saying this stuff. I feel like y'all letting them get into y'all heads, because I never remember hearing this before. Like, y'all never had an issue with Jamaicans before. Like, why do y'all, since when did y'all care about the Nigerian flag? A lot of people in the United States unfortunately look down on a lot of Black countries if they're not vacation spots. So why now all of a sudden are people feeling so threatened by the flags and stuff? I don't really get that. So I feel like, yeah, stop letting people like 𝙁, who they don't even care about Blackness, they don't care about Black history, they damn self, but they want to try to put ideas in your head and make you feel some type of way towards Black immigrants or biracials or whatever it is. It's like, no, I'm sick of these people. Like, stop projecting your issues onto other people, because not everybody has them issues, and you keep trying to put your ideas in other people's heads. Now, I can understand how when I say that, it might sound like, oh, you're not letting people take accountability for their own thoughts and ideas, or some people really just are prejudiced or really just are bothered, whatever. And okay, yeah, that is true for some people, but I don't believe that that's as many people as people are trying to make it seem. I don't believe at all that most Black Americans genuinely really have an issue with all of these immigrants. I don't really feel like that many Black Americans genuinely would have cared about Tyler if other Black Americans and a few Africans who were putting that narrative out there. I don't feel like a lot of people would have even felt like that if other people had not put that narrative out there. And that's why I'm so against propaganda. And I'm always talking about it, because I'm like, bro, y'all letting a few people who got their own issues and insecurities, they be loud and wrong, having a huge platform because of what type of personality they have. And then they put in ideas and everybody else had, and they're saying, yeah, maybe I should be mad at this Jamaican immigrant, even though I let my dollar go through 4 or 5 other non-Black immigrants' hands before, and I only go to the Jamaican food spot or the African brand shop once every 3-4 months, but I'm gonna get on Twitter and try to beef with them. But I don't got no smoke for the Asian in the 99-cent store though. You know what I mean? And again, I think I want all people in general of all races to win, whether you be American or immigrant or not. I don't think anybody should have an issue with anybody. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it is weird to me that why you skipping the line to come and beef with light skins and other Black people. That's real weird. That's just my point. So yeah, I definitely think that we would have developed a way to be healthy, to have a healthy sense of Black American pride without grifters like fucking 𝙁trying to put ideas in people's heads and stirring up pots of xenophobia. Beyonce did not diss anybody. Beyonce never put down Africa. Beyonce never threw shade at other black groups, and she's still proud of who she is. She still does African spirituality. She got her orishas and everything. What is y'all problem? Y'all are not proud. A lot of these people like Tariq Nasheed and those of his ilk who follow behind them, they're not proud to be black. And if they were proud to be black, they wouldn't be sitting around putting a bunch of bullshit and misinformation out there. You wouldn't have set up for what 5-6 years and Hidden Colors putting a bunch of bushkaki, wasting those old people's time, because some of those people were saying real stuff and are like real scholars and everything. You wasting their time mixing their actual knowledge of with a bunch of BS because you insecure about being a black American man, so you got to reach over and try to identity swap with the Moors because y'all are so thirsty to be associated with them. For why? And let's say the Moors was giving it up the way y'all claim, and it was a bunch of dark-skinned West African dudes ruling over Spain. Let's say that actually was going on. And again, I believe that the Moors were people of African descent. I just think they were North Africans. Do I think they might have been a few here and there, West Africans and people from sub-Saharan Africa? Yeah, of course, absolutely. But I think the Moors were, for the most part, probably Berbers, North Africans, something like that. But anyway, let's say that. But anyway, I'm only bringing this up because this was Tariq Nasheed's first lie. This was the first identity swap he tried to pull, and now he's pulling the Aboriginal nonsense. But we gonna get to that. But yeah, let's say that was going on. That's not even the group of black people that black Americans in the United States descend from. We come from West Africans. When do you ever hear these people talking about the kingdoms of Benin, or the astrologers of the Dinka? I'm sorry, I think I'm getting some of these groups mixed up, but you get what I mean. Like they was making moves over in West Africa. You never hear these people, so-called people who have black pride, ever talking about West Africa. They always trying to associate with light-skinned people from North Africa and crap, but then they want to come pump fake to you and say, oh, immigrants are fake black and they're trying to cosplay off being black American. It's like, sir, cut it out. Like, so that's where I have to call other black Americans bluff. And it's not just black Americans who do this either. Caribbeans do this shit too. So don't get me wrong. I'm just saying Tariq Nasheed is trying to promote himself as being pro-black American and some type of advocate for us, when really he's just making everybody look stupid and ignorant. Honestly, he's not somebody that anybody in the diaspora should be following behind. I don't care for Dr. Umar's personal life, and I think he's a raging misogynist and a liar, but I do like what Dr. Umar stands for in terms of making connections in the diaspora. I actually think he's one of the black men that actually do have pride and actually did go to college. I actually do believe that he is highly educated. I don't believe Tariq Nasheed even probably graduated from high school, is giving GED vibes, honestly. And that's no hate to anybody who has a GED, but don't shit on other people and try to, just make stuff up to make yourself feel better because you feel some type of way about our history, because that's really what it boils down to. And I mean, you really shouldn't, because I mean, there's nothing to feel no type of ways about. But what makes me feel like people like him feel away is because why are you always trying to attach onto these other black groups under some facade of pro-black, African history, whatever, and those are not the people you come from. But the people that you actually do come from, y'all could associate with them, and y'all never pay attention to those groups, and going as far as to sit up here and on Twitter and try to say, we don't even come from West Africans, we was already here, using early 2000s and 90s anti-African insults against people on Twitter, like who, and then trying to say that this is under the guise of defending black Americans and making it seem like we all think like this, and most of us do not, and are not watching this crap on YouTube. This is a very small and vocal minority group. So I wanted to say that as well, because on TikTok a lot of people are saying like, oh, black Americans, why y'all thinking like this? Like, no, stop letting these prison scholars speak for everybody in the United States, because most people do not feel like that. Most people are not pressed about Tyler. Y'all be letting insecure chicks and prison scholars be the voice of black America, and it's real annoying because the vast majority of us don't think like this and don't even agree with none of this stuff a lot of these people are saying. So that's something I want to get off my chest too. Before I play some TikToks, hold on, let me grab some water. Yeah, okay, so another thing I wanted to talk about is people saying that African culture is like kind of like co-opting or taking over black American culture. And so I want to kind of say I have kind of a nuanced perspective about this in two regards, because I did see the video of the makeup woman. She's black American. She was talking about Essence Fest, excuse me, and how I guess it was very like West African centered. I guess they had like fufu and like dashiki going and everything like that. I don't know. But you know, and I actually agree with what that girl was saying in that regard. I do agree, because Essence Fest is something that's very specifically focused on Southern Black American culture, heavily like Louisiana culture, things like that. And you know, I grew up in the North. My parents grew up in the North as well. So I don't really, you know, even for me, that's even a different aspect of Black American culture that I haven't really even had that much exposure to. And it's a different culture that I even come from. So I respect it too. So even in that, you know, all Black American culture and experiences are not the same. You know, those of us who grew up on the East Coast, we have, or the Midwest, we have a very different experience and things that we did or didn't do compared to people in the South and things. So, you know, I'm kind of going to get into that later on as well. But yeah, so that plays an aspect of it. So, you know, I respect that, you know what I mean? In Louisiana, like there are not many West Africans, you know, that should have been just a, you know, Black American, you know, typical event like Afro Fest. I mean, like Essence Fest has been the last like 40 years, 50 years or whatever. And you can have African aspects, you can have jollof rice, or have people showing off African culture as well, and people be supportive of that. But I agreed with her that that is a Black American thing, and people are going to feel like there is an intrusion, or may feel, you know, some type of way if they feel like their culture and something that is very specific to them is being changed. For example, people might feel a type of way if, you know, it's a HBCU football game, and, you know, the girls who do the you know, the dancing, you know, again, like I said, I'm not from, you know, I'm from New York City, so we don't do fun things like have football games and stuff. Our schools are basically like prisons. They treat us like prisoners. We don't do anything fun. We all come out with mental health issues and trauma from fights. Let me stop. I'm playing. We don't have fun high school experiences like y'all do in the South. But anyway, so yeah, you know, y'all know how like the dancers and the musicians come and everything. Okay, imagine that, and I know that's something very specific for Southern Black culture, right? Imagine they start, you know, doing some, you know, West African dance. You know, people would feel naturally some type of way. Now, if later on they say, okay, we're also going to have this other dance troupe that's West African, you know, and they're going to do their thing, people, you know, there might be still some people that be irritated, but generally people would be supportive of it. I'm just making the point that each culture has to be respected and has to even give their shine at the proper moment. So I do agree with that. So I did want to validate other Black Americans in that regard. And, you know, even I heard some people saying, you know, I gotta even, you know, I completely agree with this as well. You know, I've heard some people in America say, you know, they don't like how sometimes when you go to Black parties, they only play Caribbean and Afrobeats music. And I, you know, as again, somebody who's multi-ethnic, who grew up listening to not only Vibes Cartel, but also, you know, music from the 80s and 90s, Keith Sweat, things like that, you know, a lot of Black American music. I understand sometimes when you go to parties, you want to hear like, you know, that classic music, you want to hear that stuff you might hear at your family reunion, stuff like that. But when you go to parties in New York, you're only going to hear Caribbean music and now Afrobeats. You know, there's even been times I have friends, they only wanted us to go to Afrobeats parties, and I'd say, oh, okay, let's go to this like Dembow party. That's like Dominican funk music. I'm like, oh, let's go to this party, or let's go to this you know, it's not going to say quote unquote Black American party, you get it, but it's like, oh, I want to go to this Caribbean African American party in this other neighborhood, or I want to go to this like Hispanic party. And I've had friends and they didn't want to go, you know, they said, oh, I'm not going to know the songs, oh, I'm not going to XYZ, but I'm expected to go to the Afrobeats parties. Now I don't know the songs. I don't know what they're saying, but if I say, oh, I don't want to go to the Afrobeats parties, then I'm gonna look like the light-skinned anti-Black bigot. Feel me? So it's like, you know, so it's like both groups, you know, there has to be respect on both ways. Now, to me, it's not worth it for me to get online and throw a fit against Africans because of that. But have I been in those situations before? Yeah, just like, you know, if I had a friend that said, hey, every time we go out, you only want to go to music where they're playing, you only want to go to places where they're playing Spanish music. Can we go somewhere else? Or, you know, can we be more mindful about that? You know, I wouldn't be offended. I'd be like, okay, like I get that, you know, because I've been there too. So each group has to like respect each other in that regard. So I'm not trying to gaslight and be like, oh, don't feel no type of way about anything. You know, no group has any reason to say XYZ clearly people, you know, like I said, there's nuance to both perspectives. And also I've even talked about how in other videos, you know, there have been times when people, maybe certain African people, said things about light skin or mixed people, and you know, I had to make a video and say, listen, in the United States, you know, we have this way of viewing race and skin tone and things like that. Maybe where you're from, you don't view this person as quote unquote black in the same way, but in the United States, this is how we do things. You know, I've made those videos. So I want to also show, like, you know, I'm not just only taking one side, taking the immigrant side, or only taking the Black American side. You know, I've had to speak from both perspectives and say each group, yeah, has to kind of respect each other. So yeah, that's kind of you know, my perspective as well. And I do feel like in New York generally, like, groups do respect each other. Like, you know, most people, if you ask them to go to, you know, a party with you and it's not their ethnicity, they're not going to have an issue with it. Everybody parties with each other, everybody goes to each other's events and stuff like that. You know, and who you're around makes a difference also. So yeah, so it's like, I just feel like if it was such an issue between Black Americans and immigrants, wouldn't you see these issues happening more so in New York? Like, wouldn't you hear a bunch of people from New York, Miami, California complaining about immigrants? I don't hear that. The main people that I hear complaining about immigrants literally live in like the Midwest, the South, places where if they are immigrants, they're very specific groups, and they're also like segregated to their own neighborhood. And it's like the immigrant groups that's around them are not even Black immigrants. Like, you mean to tell me there's a whole bunch of Nigerians running around St. Louis? Like, I know that they are like Somalis and things like that, but again, that's a very specific group. So it's like, okay, you might have experience with Somalis, but that doesn't mean you have experience with Cubans and Jamaicans. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, just be, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of nuance in there too. Like, I've never been around Somalis. I've never been around Ethiopians. So, you know, y'all get online and try to do the anti-mix smear campaigns against them, saying that they're colorist and everything like that. I'm not gonna get on here and have preconceived notions about Somalians just because y'all said they were colorist. Like, I'm gonna wait and have my own experiences, but I feel like y'all don't do that. And I know for a fact y'all definitely don't do that or give Latinos the benefit of the doubt. Most of y'all have never met a Dominican in your life. You never met an Afro-Latino in your life, but y'all get online and pathologize us, swear you know everybody's mentality, swear you know everybody, you know, how everybody views Blackness. And it's like, bro, there's a whole set of islands, all mad nations, mad different regions. You mean to tell me that you saw one video of one Dominican chick and now you know how all Afro-Latinos think and that we're all anti-Black and colorist? So I see a lot of that going on, and that's an issue I have too. And I feel like when you are multi-ethnic or multiracial, mix, whatever, but also if you're monoracial but you grew up in a diverse environment, I feel like those types of people see things differently and tend to have an easier time putting themselves into other shoes and perspectives and seeing both sides of things. But I don't want to sound like I'm being prejudiced towards people who don't have those experiences. I'm just saying, because I do think that some people can just practice basic human empathy and understand, oh, you know, this person has different life experiences or grew up XYZ place, but I'm not going to assume, you know what I mean? So I think it's a little bit of both going on. But yeah, don't let these people just sit around and tell y'all what the next person thinks, how immigrants think, how different skin tones think, how different people with admixtures think. These people don't know. And that's what I'm tired of too. Stop letting people sit around and pathologize people that they don't know, you know what I mean? Or just assume stuff. Like, I speak on the groups that I know and that I come from. Feel me? I'm not sitting up here trying to speak for groups and speak on groups that I'm not a part of and don't know. Feel me? You know, and even my takes are circumstantial and just personal. But let me see, do I want to address what's in my notes, because I'll be going off at tangents. Let me see. Yeah, let me play these TikToks now, and then I'm gonna probably finish playing his video because I do got a bunch more things I want to say. I need to get some water too. I'm like parched.
Their ancestors instead of our ancestors.
Oh, let me see what y'all saying in the chat first. Oh, y'all said what's up. Hey, dreaming of reality. Oh, it's active tonight. Oh, okay. I got a bunch of views too. I'm looking at my dashboard. Okay, this must be a good time to go live then. So I'll stick with going live around this time, but I don't gotta be up super late. I mean, super early. Oh, hey, embrace your curls. Yes, your curvy too. Okay, Guides and Trinity. Okay, yeah, we deep over here because I think you're on the East Coast too. Let me think. Oh, y'all said a lot of stuff. Sorry. I was getting so much in my own little rant. West Indian wars. Yeah. Yeah. Like a lot of West Indians have issues with each other. Shoot, come to the Bronx. You'll hear a bunch of stories. Cubans and Colombians don't get along. Yeah. I haven't been around Colombians that much either. Because funny enough, in New York, they live in like a certain area too. You know, like New York is interesting in that way where it's like it's diverse, but people do got their neighborhoods. So like they have a neighborhood that's like kind of far from where I grew up or like where the Caribbeans live. So it's interesting. So it's like it's different, even Latin groups in different areas. And especially like depending on like the region, you know, of course, different regions they have more common. So that kind of makes sense too. So it's like if you like from the Caribbean and you grew up in a Colombian neighborhood, you might feel a little out of place because you know it's because just a very different culture and they eat different food and stuff, even speak Spanish different. We only got money for wars. They'll feed the poor, right? Exactly. Yeah, Cubans don't like Puerto Ricans. Yeah. I've had friends that was trying to do the little, you know, because Cubans and Puerto Ricans, we have the same flag basically. Yeah, trying to do the little diaspora words with me. I'm like, girl, I'm not the one. Like, I don't care about that. Like, you will have to find some other Cubans to fight with because, like, I don't care about flags. Okay, yeah, I addressed those. Hi, Liz. Tariq can't stand to hijack other people's hustle. Right, exactly. Because I do feel like that was genuine to what's that woman's name? Yvette Cornell. Because I remember when she first got started and she had a male working with her. Yeah, like that was actually her movement. That's actually something she came up with. I feel like Yvette Cornell is an actual just Black conservative. And that's something that's been existed forever. You know what I mean? So yeah, I feel like that was actually her movement. He swagger jacked it. You know, typical scammer. I mean, he said he was a pimp. Shoot, that's what pimps do. I do have 5 flags all over. Yeah, yes, we're very nationalistic. Africans go in. Liz says Africans go with ethnicity over nationality. Most since their ethnicities live like 5 countries. Right, exactly. And it makes more sense because their countries, I mean, they fresh. They a lot of them were limited rated like what the 60s and stuff. So that makes sense that they connect more to their ethnicity and their culture is more connected to that, the language and stuff like that. So I find that very interesting. They kind of be doing the nationalism thing here, you know, here in the United States, having the flag in the bio and stuff. But I find that too, they're way more focused on ethnicity. They'll say, oh, I'm Yoruba, I'm this and that. You know what I mean? I'm I forget the ethnicity for people from Senegal, but I noticed they do that even here in New York. But they assume that most Americans don't know their ethnicity, so they'll just say what country. Some people won't even say their country. Like the amount of Africans I met, and I'm like, "Oh, where are you from?" They're like, "I'm from Africa," and I'm like, "Okay, where are you from?" They're like, "Africa." I'm like, "Hello, like, wow, you really underestimate that much of me? You really think I'm that much of a dumb American? Can you at least give me a damn region? Like, let me guess, damn." Like, oh man. Yeah, I don't think it's anything wrong with embracing the American flag. Like I've always had, you know, the little American flag dresses when we did 4th of July and things like that. Like that's one thing I will say. My family never was those types of family like, oh, F the American flag and stuff. They were never that type. We always have fun on 4th of July and things. So I got shamed for having my Caribbean flag, West Indian flag on an IG thread. Yeah, probably from these same type of people. But and then the thing about it is that those same type of people, and if they were Black American, which they probably were, the same type of Black Americans that will drag a West Indian for that will probably drag a Black American for having an American flag in their bio. So it's like they just, they give me the type of vibe of the people that just want to like kind of control everybody else's ethnicity and self-perception. It's the same thing that, you know, light skin makes people go through. That's what I feel. I feel like it's the same offenders. I really do, because why are you that concerned with, you know, other people? Feel me? Like, yeah, I never understood that. And I even always feel like that about people who didn't like other Americans who put the American flag in their bio, or, you know, or embraced it, because I even thought about it because, like, yeah, like my mom's American, so I know for a fact if I put the American flag and like the Cuban Bahamian flag, like they would definitely drag me for that, because people would be like, why you got the American flag? So I know exactly what you mean. But is that incorrect? I mean, that's the ethnicity. So I do get where people are coming from. Like, why is it that when you want to put the American flag for a black person, people have issue with it, but, you know, other people, if you put, I don't know, like some random shit, I don't know, if you put the Colombian flag and your parents black, people won't have issue with that, when you could be from Colombia and you could be any race. So what's different about the United States flag? So I get that. Yeah, I do think it's certain groups of cults online. Yeah, I think that most people are living their life. Most people, they're really worried about making sure that them and their family is good. Like, yeah, I'm not even into that politically, but yeah, I feel like that is true for most American people. It's really not even personal. I haven't met anywhere I lived now, but I miss people and the food back in NYC. Oh yeah, I know. When I leave New York, I do sometimes miss the food. After like 2 weeks. At first, I'm happy to be away from the New York food that I live in that area, because it just gets repetitive. But once I'm like there for like 2 weeks or something, I start missing like New York bodega food and everything. And Gigi says it's even more crazy that they say they don't have African lineage. It's wild as fuck. Yeah, like that's when I started to really get concerned. I'm like, y'all, blink twice. Is everything okay? Like, it's one thing if you're like, okay, you know, I'm here in America now. This is what we're doing. We being proud to be America. I totally get that. It's like, come on now, let's not be facetious. Like 1492 was not that long ago. like it really wasn't that long. Like, there are people who can track their ancestors to being like with the conquistadors and shit. Like, you know, like that wasn't that long ago. That was only like what, maybe 10 generations back for some people. Who's the worst grifter, Tariq or Umar? I pick Papa Smurf Umar. Oh, really, Irby? You think Dr. Umar is the worst grifter? The reason why I don't think Dr. Umar is the worst grifter, because Dr. Umar has been consistent with his grift. You know, he been grifting with the school for 20 years. I mean, you almost gotta respect it at this point. It's like, dang, like we know you're a liar, but he been consistent with his lie. Tariq and Nasheed, he like a Jamaican immigrant. He didn't work every job. Like, he didn't been a pimp. He didn't been, maybe he was a pastor. I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up. He didn't been a pimp. He didn't been a historian. He didn't been a journalist. He's now a political advocate. He didn't been a flag maker. He didn't had a drop shipping store. I mean, like, he didn't been on VH1, cassette with the scams, now YouTube with the scams, X with the scams. Like, you can't even keep up with his scams. Like, I hate that I even know that much about him, but I've told y'all, I'm chronically on YouTube. It's even oh yeah. Yeah, Tariq Nasheed is really funny though. He is funny. I will say he's hilarious. The FBA chat rooms like stepping into the Twilight Zone. Oh, I can't even imagine. But no, Tariq Nasheed is really funny, I will say. He's like that problematic uncle that be saying stuff that's like, oh my God, did he really just say that? When you tell them to check your DNA, they said the tests are fake. Yeah, I've heard a few people who come from different like mentalities say that they don't trust the tests. I don't know enough about the test to have a strong opinion on it. I feel like it's real too. Like, I mean, for example, me personally, like my family took one, everything that we've always believed was basically confirmed with the test. I've heard other people say that they took the test and what they already knew was already on the test. So do I think that they're like maybe the most reliable or that they're the most detailed? Because they do say they're just for like, you know, just kind of for entertainment purposes. But do I think they give you a general idea? Like, yeah, I feel like if you were as native as you claim to be, I feel like it would show up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just what I feel like. Yeah. The DNA testing is funny. I tried to take like a genetics class. It was so boring. But I wish I knew more about that for that exact reason. Essence magazine is definitely African American women's culture. Yeah, it is African American women's culture. It definitely is. And it's from DC, which is like the most Black American country, the most Black American cultured city like in the country. Oh Lord, Black College Weekend. Yeah, it's like people who never went to college strolling as if they were a part of Black Greek life. No, seriously. That's what I'm looking for, Black Greek life. Yes. Like, we don't have any of that fun stuff up here. You have to go to the South to get that. That's the only thing about New York. You can't get everything, but we definitely appreciate going down to the South and like being a part of that culture because it's something different for us. So it's like we definitely fascinated with that. Like, I used to watch shows, be like, oh my gosh, I wish I could go to marching bands and be a cheerleader. Like, that looks so fun. Like, and then it's always warm too. Man, it seems like it's so fun going to school in the South. Yeah, hold on. Sorry, of course, everybody want to talk to you when you on live. Like, come on now. Made me lose my place. Oh yeah, old school R&B. And then Embrace Your Curl says, I heard West Indian, Afro beats, rap, club music, old school R&B. Yeah, we play a little bit of everything in New York. And Yamina says, we got along so well in New York in most cases. Yeah, we do. And even, you know, I didn't grow up in Miami. I can't speak for that, but I've spoken to people who grew up in Miami and they said that growing up, you know, like maybe there might have been a few problems because it is the South, but they feel like generally people got along too. So when I get online and I hear people talking about Miami so racist and stuff, I guess it's the club scene and things. And I know how Cubans are, don't get me wrong, but you know, I do find that interesting too. Like, you know, even in California, like it's super diverse, but you don't really tend to hear people who grow up in those places saying that as much. I notice it's mostly like tourists and people who come from other places that tend to say that. And you know, when you're from certain cities, you know what spots and parties to go to where you're going to be more welcome and things. So I wonder if it's a little bit of that. But yeah, I feel like in New York generally people like get along. I feel like the issue on the East Coast is that the price of living is so astronomical that it's like you almost don't even have time to like worry about the other like culture stuff because you're just trying to get through like your next paycheck. Like, so I feel like that kind of is why the situation on the East Coast is a little different. It's more of an economic thing, and also the economics and the racial situation is a lot more overt. So it's more obvious that, like, you know, like you go to places in New York and it's usually going to be Black Americans, West Indians, and Latin people all working at the same job. So even though I do notice that immigrants tend to have more businesses, but the type of businesses that people of color immigrants tend to have is like owning a hair salon, owning a restaurant, and those are businesses that are high investment, but they don't yield as much money as you have to put into them. And it's easy to lose those businesses. You know, it's easy for a lot of stuff to go wrong with that. It's not as profitable as other businesses that immigrants from like Europe and Asia are able to get into. So I can totally also understand why to Black Americans it looks like, well, these immigrants, they coming over here and doing good for themselves. You know, I've even heard this in my family, you know, I've heard it from both sides, so I totally get it. You know, people saying, well, you know, immigrants come over here, they open businesses, you know, certain immigrants, especially Cubans, you know, get subsidies and stuff like that, to open businesses and things. And even amongst Cubans, don't even get me started about the economic disparity with a racial disparity with Cubans, because those Cubans that's coming over here living their best life, that's, you know, owning businesses, having the money in Miami, they're not the people of African descent. They're the people who, even in Cuba, they already have money. I'm not going to get into that rant, but there's a lot of intersections with that. Also, a lot of the non-black and like white Latin people that come over here that do well, they already have money over there. They didn't come over here dirt poor. That's different than somebody who came over here illegally from, Otaka, Mexico, or came over here from DR, feel me, illegally. That's a very different situation. So yeah, anyway, I'm not going to get too much into that, but yeah, different immigrant groups, they open up different businesses that might have better long-term outcomes. So if you think about a lot of the jobs that like Caribbeans and Africans and stuff like that, they have, they're like their stores that it's not the best for the economy. It's not like what the Indians and the Asians and stuff are doing. Anyway, that's something I've noticed more so here in New York City, but I wanted to talk about that too. So I can totally see how it's like, it seems like weird because you see immigrants open up business, but when you think about the businesses that they have, it's not, sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth. And then sometimes people end up having to sell the business because they're just not even able to maintain it, or you lose money trying to maintain the business while you getting on your feet. It's just a lot of shenanigans. So it's not as easy for Black immigrants as it is for other immigrants either, just because of the nature of the situation. So that's also something I wanted to point out too. It's like, do you want to own a braiding salon? Do you want to own a patty shop? Like, feel me? And it's like, even in my neighborhood, there are a lot of like soul food restaurants and stuff like that too. And I noticed, hearing my parents' friends talk about stuff, they have the same type of issues, that the Black immigrant business owners have too. So it's just the nature of the economy in the United States. It's hard to be an entrepreneur or a business owner in the United States as a person of color who doesn't really come from long money, honestly. So yeah. I don't want to keep going on and on about that. And also, who do you think is getting better subsidies and better opportunities? The person who's coming from India who has all these connections, or the Nigerian immigrant who don't really have much socially to barter? Like, that sounds bad. I'm not trying to shit on Africans or anything, but let's be real here. If you're coming from a country that don't have that much, economic clout, that's not going to transfer over as much in the United States either. Like, it just is what it is. So that also plays a role into it. That's why Asians come over here and do so well. But yeah.
There's this thing that all parties of the diaspora war do, which is to say, my ancestors, their ancestors, instead of our ancestors. Let me explain. Picture a mother, father, son, and daughter on the coast of West Africa. The mother and son are stolen, and the father and daughter never see them again, ever. Black Americans, we don't sit long enough with what it means to stand on the shore in pure anxiety and weight of what happened to your mother and brother as they vanished into the abyss of the ocean. My ancestors were not the ones just taken. They were the ones who had to live with the daily devastation of having their family members stolen from them, and probably wondering if they would be next. And it seems like a lot of continental Africans don't sit with that either. Growing up in the Houston area, I had a lot of fellow Nigerian friends and classmates, and I would hear the term their ancestors. Like, I can't help that my ancestors were the ones who successfully escaped kidnapping. Like, no, my ancestors are your ancestors who were successfully kidnapped. They're your ancestors too. I already know the rebuttal. Some were traded, some were sold on purpose. And you could say that some African peoples were complicit, but what does complicit really mean when the people with the guns are asking you to trade? It's not really a negotiation, it's a threat. I recently read a slave ship ledger published by Brown University. There are pages tabulating how many humans were captured while the ship was docked, how many died before it even left, and how many survived on their journey across. This one single primary source helped me to further refine my understanding of the trauma on both sides of the Atlantic. Whether you're in Ghana, Jamaica, London, Atlanta, all of our ancestors were violated in this equation. You have to sit with the pain that comes with understanding the powerlessness that our ancestors experienced at that point in history. And sometimes that pain comes out through ignorance, denial, and exhausting diaspora wars. Yes, we are different now, and I never want to deny the beauty in our diversity across the diaspora. We are not just the descendants of enslaved people or colonized people. We are separated cousins, mothers and sons separated from fathers and daughters. That's it. That's the story. That's our story.
The incident at $1.
Oh, so let me just give some backstory to his situation. So he had type went viral like on like Latin Talk like this time last year because he called this girl. He's from Texas, so you know we can assume what demographic he was talking about, but I won't go there. So he overheard this girl clean straight talking shit about him, or maybe another black person. I can't remember, but she was talking hella shit in Spanish, you know, saying a bunch of anti-black stuff about either him or another customer. I can't remember. But basically it was the classic situation where she thought he couldn't understand because they're in Texas. So she didn't know who she was dealing with. Come to find out he's actually Cuban. Shout out to Cubans, feel me? So yeah, so he's Cuban. So he overheard her what she was saying and everything, and he confronted her to her face on video and said, you need to be careful and watch your mouth, feel me? But yeah, this is every day, feel me? This is a typical situation. I've even had stuff happen like this to me and my friends confronted them, but it was actually just girls talking regular shit, and I would actually consider those girls to have been Afro-Latina also. They were just more fresh off the boat, and me and my friends are more Americanized, so they thought that we were, you know, just I guess just regular American girls or whatever. They didn't know that we couldn't understand them. And then my friends ended up getting into a fight with them. That's a whole story I'm gonna tell one day. It's funny. It's funny high school New York girl stuff. But yeah, so that's something that happens, you know, that's a pretty classic like Afro-Latino experience. But yeah, that was funny. So that's what happened with his situation. So that's how I found out about his page. So then I started following him from there and everything. And so he's just responding to that situation going viral.
Go dear life of a mobile mechanic in Houston, Texas, and the surrounding area. Go dear life of a mobile mechanic in Houston, Texas, and the surrounding area. Since the incident at Family Dollar, I've seen I'm getting a little exposure. So this is what I want to do. I always tell people, man, us folks, man, besides learning his story, we need to learn our story. And a bunch of other people don't know because they don't teach it to us. But man, our story starts off in Latin America. Before the United States was discovered, man, we was already being dropped off in the Caribbean. Cuba, in fact, Cuba was a slave port where they brought the slaves there before they brought to the Americas, you know what I'm saying? But the Dominican Republic and Haiti and all that stuff, which was known as Hispaniola. So, you know, and man, our story begins in Latin America before it even starts over here. And I'm gonna say this, and people always say, why I say Afro-Latino, just said Latino. Because when I say Afro, just like you say Afro-American, you identify as being a black person. I say Afro-Latino because that identifies with me saying I'm black. Forget the nationality, because Cuban is not a race, it's a nationality. Puerto Rican ain't a race, it's a nationality. Dominican ain't a race, it's a nationality. When you say Afro, you showing them I'm black, because you got white Latinos too. You know what I'm saying? And just like in they proud of who they are. When we say Afro, that identifies with I am a black man or black person or African descent that speaks one of the Latin languages. And the Latin languages are Spanish, French, Italian, and then Portuguese. Might be another in there, but only thing Latino mean is I speak one of the Latin languages. I speak Spanish, yo hablo español, and I speak French. Je parle français aussi. So that's all that means. It ain't got nothing to do with bloodline. Ain't no Latin bloodline. People get that mixed up. I'm like, no. Latino is a person who speaks a Latin language, no matter their color, because you got Chinese Latinos. In Cuba, you got a bunch of Spanish-speaking Chinese, Asians. You had a Japanese president in Peru back in the days named Alberto Fujimori. Like I say, Latin only means I speak one of the Latin languages I happen to speak too. And when I say Hispano, or Hispanic, that means I speak Spanish or Portuguese. If I say Bono Franco, that means, you know, I'm a Latino. Bono Franco, that means I speak French. And like I said, we need to stop learning his story and start learning our story. With that said, man, I'm going to come back with some more videos and teach y'all how to speak Spanish. Especially everybody always say, man, I can't pronounce it. I'm going to show you how to cheat the R. With that said, y'all stay blessed. Get back.
So yeah, definitely go check out the TikToks made by the girl with the pretty eyes and eyelashes, the first one that I showed. I couldn't tell if she was Black American or Nigerian. I don't want to sound ignorant, but she looks Black American. I don't know, because she looks Nigerian too, so I don't want to sound ignorant, but I think she's Black American. But anyway, check out her content, and also check out the Cuban guy's content as well. He makes a lot of videos on Instagram, so if you're interested in that type of stuff, definitely go follow him. He actually looks mad Cuban too, like his nose and everything. Y'all probably wouldn't be able to peep what I'm saying, but if you know, you know. Like he definitely looks very Cuban. Like I clocked him immediately. But oh yeah, so I'm gonna move on to the next clip in the video.
Right anger, justified anger. Nobody will ever you horizontally. Black Caribbean people, Africans, you know, like right anger, justified
slavery in the Caribbean and the founding years of the chattel slave told you that plenty of people with the exact same ancestry as you ended up on those islands out of sheer chance after putting in work in the States. It's your claim for hoarding plantations and shipped to Brazil.
Yeah, you get me. The white institution is a very puissant, towering figure. You get me. So like you trying to punch up, and you can't reach. Yeah. Okay, well I can punch sideways then. I can punch horizontally. And what's next to you horizontally? Black Caribbean people, Africans. You know, like even you know, you get out of them Latinos. You see what's going on in LA. So that's and that goes across genders and whatnot too. Like the Black man feels invalidated by his experience being in the States, being emasculinized by the white American. And what does he do to take out his frustration with capitalism, with all these other things? He doesn't try to fight that system. Right. He fights the Black woman. Yeah. You know, he fights his partner. That's the problem. Right anger, justified anger. Nobody will ever contend with that. Wrong punching bag.
Okay, to everybody who listens to Tariq or never took African American history in school or had this part conveniently removed from their textbooks, the transatlantic slave trade brought African people from their continent to the Americas and Brazil. Some went directly to the Caribbean, some directly to the colonies, but all were subject to being resold at any time. One of the countries that never gets brought up for buying enslaved people, Canada. Just as an example, Portugal was the most active transporter. That plantation in Brazil was theirs. They were brought to the Caribbean plantations and American plantations and shipped to Brazil and Nova Scotia and anywhere else there was an established trade relationship and demand for cheap labor. Tariq's rules for FBA lineage heavily rely on a separation between those descended from Caribbean slavery and those descended from American freedmen. This rule blatantly and intentionally ignores that people cross between these plantations all the time. Enslaved people were sold off to the Caribbean after working in America because Haiti had high demand, and they were sent there as punishment too, since conditions were reportedly more brutal on those plantations. This is the best part. Lincoln even tried to send these freedmen Tariq wants to focus on to Haiti to get them the hell out of his face. Lincoln did not want a bunch of free Negroes wandering around the US. The attempt failed, but a basic review of history would have told you that plenty of people with the exact same ancestry as you ended up on those islands at a sheer chance after putting in work in the States. If your claim for hoarding all the imaginary reparations checks depends on FBA's building the foundation of this country, shouldn't anybody who did that work be included? You'd think so if this was based on logic, but it's not. Even if there were zero significant intersection between
Okay, my computer's starting to do that weird pausey thing where it drags when I go from the next window. So I think I'm gonna have to wrap it up soon eventually. And I'm about to go on 2 hours, so I won't bore y'all. But I was gonna say this is exactly why I do of course support and believe we need reparations. But what the point he's making right now is exactly why I feel like it's kind of a pipe dream because of exactly what he just said. Yeah, it's like there's not a colony in this country that wasn't impacted by the transatlantic slave trade. So it will come down to a situation of, okay, how would we determine who would be receiving these reparations for the transatlantic slave trade? Should we just give it to the whole country, which would kind of defeat the purpose? How do we, narrow that down? And I feel like the uncomfortable truth is I feel like that's a huge reason as to why it hasn't really happened, honestly. And where a lot of these ADOS people are just showing their xenophobic and bigotry is because they're jumping the gun. And before there's even a proposal on the table, before there's any confirmation, before there's any political force saying that they're behind any type of reparations plan, they're already jumping to, okay, we need to start separating from other Black people and determine who will get reparations or not. And so it's like it's putting the cart before the horse. And so I just feel like they used that as an excuse to try to push this divisive rhetoric. And that's what makes me feel like there might be more to this narrative, because I can see why the lay person would think, oh, okay, America, reparations, Black Americans, reparations, makes sense. You're Nigerian. Why are we talking about, reparations? It's an easy situation to create a divisive sandwich. But at the same time, I don't think the lay person is even thinking that far to where, oh, I am in support of reparations, but now I'm going to be hyper defensive over this Black immigrant from Colombia getting reparations. You know what I mean? So you have to wonder, like, why did it get this far out of hand to where now we over here fighting over reparations that don't even exist yet? So although, like, I could see why someone who's manipulative like Tariq Nasheed would use that as an excuse to push xenophobia, I do have to think, like, isn't this a little early? Like, I could see if there was a proposal out there. I could see if there was a presidential candidate saying, if you both your parents are American, then you get XYZ. Like, I could see if that was going on, but none of that had even been proposed or brought up or brought to public attention yet before a lot of this was happening. So that's why I'm just like, why the hyper fixation on the Black Americans versus immigrants thing, other than possibly, I don't know, something more in the back end. But yeah, I just always found that really funny. But even when it comes to like people like Tariq Nasheed, like, what reasons would certain Black people have to push this? I can't even see what that would be either, other than like personal gain, and you already didn't really care anyway, so you just think it's funny to see people fight. And I feel like that's kind of what it is for Tariq Nasheed, because like I said, if he really gave a rat's ass about Black history or the diaspora, any of that, he wouldn't be over here pushing a bunch of lies about North African Moors and trying to brainwash people into convincing them that they're Olmecs and stuff. He would actually be spending time really talking to those Black scholars. That's time he wasted back in 2014, and actually be platforming people who actually read books, not Twitter comment sections, unlike himself. So yeah, I think a lot of this is just for like shits and giggles. Honestly, I think it's just jokes for somebody like him. Like, I don't even think he cared that much, but you can see why from my perspective, I would find it annoying, considering, I have not only Caribbean but Black American roots too. So it's like, what the hell? Like, why are you like pushing this and putting putting ideas into people's heads and having them thinking that, you know, all these black immigrants are taking something from them. Like, we don't all see the non-black immigrants running off with the bag from the hood. You know what I mean? And again, I don't even wish bad on them. And I'm not even those black people that is bitter towards non-black people for coming in the hood and making money. I feel like that's what the economy is. That's just making, that's the economics. Don't be mad that there's a business opportunity out there and you haven't taken advantage of it. Like, I understand that, like, we hear so like beauty supply stores and stuff like that, like Asians do stuff in the market to, you know, keep their own businesses with more product and things. I know they do funny shit like that, but it's like, I'm not gonna waste time sitting up here being bitter towards non-black immigrants. Like, who got time for that? I'm you know, like, it is what it is. I can acknowledge the truth, but it is what it is. Like, feel me? I've never been that type of person. So I always look at people like 𝙁weird. Like, well, why do you even care that much? Like, because me personally, I never cared about owning a braiding shop. Like, I never cared about owning a braiding shop. I never cared about having a restaurant. I don't want a laundromat. Like, okay, actually, let me not say that. A laundromat, I would open up a laundromat. And then even that, who's stopping me as a black American from opening up a laundromat? It damn sure ain't no African immigrant. If anything, you know what I mean? It's an immigrant, probably an Asian immigrant, most likely, that's gonna really give me a hard time if I'm really trying to do that. So it's like, the target of the issue is not even, don't even make any sense, because I also start to think about it in the economic sense. Like, okay, I can also see where some, you know, black Americans are coming from, especially in the Midwest and stuff. You know, I've seen the economic changes from like the late 90s to now, you know, and the job losses and things, because I've spent time out there. So it's like, I could totally see that. But even there, like, it's not a whole bunch of black like black Jamaican immigrants like taking factory jobs from black Americans and stuff like that. Like, that's just not what's going on. And even here in New York, where most of the population, I would say, is an immigrant from other places, when you go to TSA or you go to jobs that are a little bit more high paying, it's not usually immigrants that work those jobs. It's usually black American women specifically. I'm talking about government buildings, like I said, TSA, things like that. So I'm just not buying this narrative that it's other black or people of color immigrants that are disadvantaging black American women specifically, because we really the ones who's carrying the black community. Let's be real. I do not believe that that's the main economic issue, the main force stopping our, you know, progress or whatever. And I don't think it's the issue with the reparations either, because at this point, it's like, in the United States, there's so many people who are like myself that are either multi-ethnic or multiracial and things like that. I'm just going to be honest with you. Why would the United States waste their time trying to figure out who they're going to give reparations to that they don't want to give out anyway? So I feel like not being able to determine, quote unquote, who you would give them to, I feel like that's just a convenient excuse, but it's just another reason why they wouldn't pursue it. Even though me personally, I support reparations in the form of like social credits. So, you know, maybe free education, you know, maybe something that's like helping with housing or getting groceries. I don't really support cold hard cash, because we know black men worshipers are going to just go spend it on males, and we know that black men are going to probably spend it on stuff that's not productive. So I feel like it wouldn't really do anything me personally, but I think that reparations in other forms would be very beneficial. And I know that sounds bad, because people try to say, oh, are you saying that, oh, black people are not responsible with this and that? That's not what I'm saying. But you know that when you just give human beings of any group a large chunk of money, that doesn't end well. Like, look at studies about people who win the lottery. Like, they don't go off generally to go become millionaires. A lot of them end up swindling the money away. So there's definitely ways that they can do the reparations thing that it actually would be beneficial to black people and just the greater society. But I feel like they use convenient excuses to not do that. One, the issue of who you would, quote unquote, give it to, even though it's really not that serious. Just tell people to apply for it. Who cares if they mix? Who cares if you know, they're from another country? I feel like people should just, if you're a person of African descent, just apply for it and you should be able to get it. But again, these people don't want that, because we have a culture in America also of we don't want to give people something we feel like they don't deserve. So that's part of it. And then also, we're shooting our own self in the foot, because now we've spent 3 years fighting about diaspora wars, and niggas never even offered you no reparations anyway. Like, you fight over reparations that don't even exist at this point. Like, So now, instead of making a better case, that could have been, hey, there was human trafficking that went on for 300 damn years to this in this country. Here's my genetic test that says I'm 40% European. True story. So here's all the reasons I should get reparations. But that's not what Black people are doing. Instead, you sitting around breaking each other up by certain groups, trying to say the mixed people don't deserve anything, trying to, have beef with the Africans for whatever reason when they ain't controlling nothing anyways. It's just like, it's a waste of time. So, I have my own reasons, especially as a mixed person, for why I'm kind of desensitized and irritated with that conversation. And I think I'm gonna have to do a part 2 just because I do have to start getting ready for work in the morning and everything. But and I still want to talk about the whole Aboriginal thing. I do want to talk more about reparations. So I think I'm gonna just do a part 2. But yeah, there's a part of that that irritates me as well, but I won't get into that. Dang, that's how I know I'm getting sleepy, because I'm trying to lose my train of thought. Oh yeah, he was just talking about reparations. But yeah, I just feel like that's a convenient excuse for them to say, oh, well, y'all can't even decide who's Black. Oh, you can't even decide who gets reparations. That's easy. We just won't give them out. But it's like, okay, but y'all knew how to give out reparations to other groups of people that rightfully so deserved it. Rightfully so. But we rightfully deserve it as well, especially when there's genetic evidence of your crime. But I won't get into that. But yeah, and like, I've even had this conversation with my parents too. Like, I don't expect my dad, that's family's Caribbean, like, I don't think you can't come over here and have the same, try to make the same demands as somebody whose family been over here for hundreds of years, like my mom's family. So I get that point as well, and that does put people who are multi-ethnic in a weird position. Not that I care so much, because I don't think it's a real position that I'll ever have to actually be in. But if the conversation comes up, then yeah, it is a real conversation. What happens if you have somebody who's from 2 different places where slavery happened? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with somebody who, okay, maybe they're biracial, but their parents from another country? Now, do they get left out of reparations, even though the country their parent comes from, it went through slavery too? Does my parent from, my dad's family from the Bahamas and Cuba, do they not get reparations now because they came to America 100 years too late? Even though in Cuba slavery was already going on long after in the United States they had ended slavery. So it's a weird dynamic, and it is a complicated question, but it didn't really have to even be this divisive. It didn't have to be as complicated as it came out to be. But I feel like just the divisive nature of our culture and how there's so many unhealed wounds and beefs amongst each other, and just like crabs in a barrel shit. And kind of like the dude was saying, it's easier to fight with other Black people than it is to confront, white supremacy. It just is what it is. It's easy to beef with Africans and complain about braiding shops and patty shops and shit than it is to, have smoke with the dude who owns the whole strip mall and lives somewhere on the East Coast in a High Line. You know what I mean? But is owning properties in dilapidated areas in the Midwest. Like, it's just not fair. But it's easier to come at the Mexican, feel me? So it's a tale as old as time. It's been going on in the United States. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish showing the end of his clip, and then I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm going to have to do a part 2 this weekend, because I do want to talk about the Aboriginal thing. And honestly, that's a video in itself anyway, because I was been gonna make a video about that. I just never came around to it, but I have a whole lot to say about that nonsense. I have a whole lot to say. Me and my, like I said, 38% European DNA have a lot to say about that Aboriginal narrative. But anyway, let's play his video and then we'll wrap it up, because I can feel my computer like starting to be like, girl, we're tired. And you are too.
Slavery in the Caribbean and the founding years of the chattel slavery system in the US, which is categorically impossible. This clown goes on to claim it's easy for all FBAs to find and produce their paperwork in order to qualify as part of the lineage.
So there's some kind of deliberate play going on here. So that's very dangerous.
I'm sorry, but I fucking can't with these thumbnails. Y'all are killing me. Y'all are killing me with AI thumbnails. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I need to step my thumbnail game up for real because y'all are eating me up out here. Why y'all got them up here like a bug-eyed fool? Like he's so ignorant. Like Tariq Slick Back Nasheed. He's so funny but ignorant at the same time. Like what even is this? And why do they got on Hawaiian shirts that have like a 1970s theme to them? I just have so many questions. Like, why does he look like he took a pull way too hard or something too strong?
Well, it was dangerous because now we're doing paperwork checks now.
He cites the 1900 census too, since it provided more information, as if some of us weren't displaced or our paperwork lost to time. As if a census conducted in 1870 could ever account for the full extent of the atrocities committed during slavery. As if our ancestors hadn't scattered all over the planet by then. And as if the federal government could ever be trusted to create and operate the entire department it would require to process and verify all these people. How are they going to stop Rachel Dolezal? Ernie's good, but how are they going to stop Kenny Smith? Why would you want the feds to have the power to further classify and exclude huge sections of the Black population in the first place? The fuck are you talking about? Did you think this through for longer than it takes you to create one of your terrible ass AI thumbnail having ass YouTube videos? Oh, by the way, this is stage 2, symbolization.
All right, I'm super tired, so I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. And I got through like the meat and potatoes of like what I wanted to say about the diaspora wars. Specifically, the part 2 of what I'll be talking about is mostly like more so my irritations with this from a Black American side. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should show today, just to like wrap up this topic. No, it's not. And I could find some more like reparations videos too, so that's good. So I could get more like thumbnails, because I think it's cool when like it's me talking, but I also show videos too, because like who wants to sit around and listen to somebody talk for 2 hours straight? Like seriously. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. That's all I wanted to say. All right, let me check out what y'all talking about in the chat. Did I miss it? Oh, let me change like this. Oh. So Irby says, embrace your curls because cities be diverse and cater to everybody. You said you're from New York, New Jersey, very diverse. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm still in New York, so I know it well. And I started going to New Jersey like as I got older. I love like the Jersey parties and stuff, Jersey club mixes and things. A lot of people don't even know like the East Coast that we have like a type of bounce music and stuff. But we love Louisiana bounce too. But we have like Jersey house music and stuff. So I love that stuff. I grew up listening to that. East Side. Okay, exactly. There's documentary called Curse of the Lottery. Oh, really? Yeah, I think actually I'm pretty sure I actually heard about that. Like I think I mentioned that. And then Yamina said, all the years that has been spoken about, no money, honey. Right, yeah. Yeah, I think they keep speaking empty promises. Because not only do they not want to do it anyway, but it also would be a little bit complicated. So I feel like it's just an easy excuse to be like, oh, well, let's just not say anything, do anything, because it would just be too hard to think about. We don't want to invest the time into it and everything. And even when they gave it to the Japanese and stuff, I believe that was pretty like low key. Like they didn't try to make it as publicized and stuff because they didn't want to send a message to these other people of color groups that they've abused and harmed and exploited, like, yeah, you know, we will give you some money too and things. And even with indigenous Americans, of course they more than anybody deserve it. I completely agree. But I think even over time with them, you know, it took them a long time to get reparations. And even in their situation, you know, they've quote unquote got reparations. But look at the situation, you know, indigenous people are in. So, you know, again, I'm kind of jumping the gun, but that's another reason why I'm like, why are you sitting around trying to co-opt these poor indigenous people's identities when you got a Irish grandpappy somewhere living their best life in West Virginia? like why am I sitting up here harassing Native Americans, trying to pretending to be Native American when again, evidence of a crime, but I won't go there. But yeah, like Native Americans have already received reparations, and you see how that panned out for them. So I do, of course, I know that Black people deserve reparations too, but I do feel like, you know, I don't even trust America to actually give any reparation that'll be actually beneficial if not used correctly. And it's like, if y'all can't even handle having Amazon microphones on YouTube to where y'all out here putting out propaganda and a whole bunch of misinformation, y'all not going to be able to maturely handle reparations. So that's another thing. I almost feel like it would be more damage than it would be beneficial. That's kind of why I don't support it as cold hard cash. Because even look what happened when with the whole what was that time around the pandemic, you know, when we got our Trump checks and everything. Like, look what happened with that. A whole bunch of people was opening up PPEs, and these were grown people. These weren't teenagers. These weren't YNs. You had little celebrities over here engaging in PPE scams. So even the way that we just even think about money and think about you know, any type of benefits and stuff like that, as it culturally needs to change if we ever think reparations will be beneficial. Sorry, I'm still ranting and raving up here. um Two sounds perfect. Yes, yes. Just ignore me. We're all packing up. Yeah, have a good night, Yahamina and Irby. And thanks for Dreaming in Reality and Gigi and Embrace Your Curls for stopping by and, you know, tuning in live and everything. I really appreciate it. Thanks to the troll too. I appreciate it. I feel special. I have my first troll in the chat, so I must be doing something right. And thanks to everybody else who listened, Cynthia, Liz, everybody. I'm going to end the stream now too. So keep an eye out for part 2. Will probably be out sometime this weekend. So have a good night.